Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I just want to give my thanks to K92 and P&G Corp for giving me the opportunity to share what is arguably the most exciting discovery, or the exciting development in mineral exploration. At VRIFY, we want to transform how we do exploration by giving our teams, our geology teams, the power to understand their data in a way that it understands the mineral potential of their project, to find and rank exploration targets by prospectivity and risk, and ultimately accelerate the pathway to new mineral discovery in the most capital efficient manner. So, why the need for AI in exploration? Well, to simply put it, mineral resources are becoming harder to find. The industry rule of thumb that we use is for every 1,000 deposits, only 2 to 3 become economically viable. We've had to explore deeper, explore more remote terrains, and in order to generate further discovery. So recent analysis from S&P Global shows that in the last 30 years, despite increasing exploration budgets, there's actually been a declining rate of mineral discovery. In the case of gold, the last major discovery was Hemi in Western Australia, which is a 13.5 million ounce deposit in 2019. And for copper, it was Filo de Sol in Chile in 2020. But these are small deposits. There hasn't been a true bona fide tier 1 mineral discovery in the last 10 to 15 years. Mineral resources are also taking longer to define despite increasing commodity demand. A study by S&P Global from 2005 to 2023 has shown that permitting and exploration time has gone up by 40% in the last 20 years. And a study by Bloomberg, NEF, and Fast Markets forecasts copper demand to rise by 1 to 2.5 times by 2050. And this is all due to the global transition into clean energy. In essence, we have a problem. So at VRIFY, our solution to accelerate mineral discovery is to use artificial intelligence. So our AI uses generative AI algorithms to find patterns in complex and diverse data sets that correlate to mineralization. An algorithm that ranks exploration targets by prospectivity and risk, and lastly, work in tandem with a tool that we have to visualize the prospectivity and opportunity to the capital markets. We want to transform exploration that looks like this, where it's a bit hard to understand and a little bit nebulous, to something that's a little bit more easy to understand for the average investing public. Something that where we can rank exploration targets and see the prospectivity in pretty much a 3D model. So where did this begin? So VRIFY AI began 8 years ago in Canada. So this is the origins of VRIFY. It's a processing facility in Quebec. So this is the town of Val d'Or, so it's equivalent to Kalgoorlie in the Eastern Goldfields, so massively rich gold endowment. And the CEO of VRIFY, which is a guy called Steve de Jong, used to run a gold mining company called Integra Gold, and in 2010 made a discovery called Triangle. So they quickly grew the project to critical mass, and the market was asking questions: where to next? Where are we going to process the ore? Unfortunately for Integra, there was a processing plant that was under care and maintenance at the time. And along with the acquisition of this processing plant for Integra, it came with the historic data set for the Lamaque mine and the Sigma mine. And both of these historic camps went down to about 2,000 meters deep. They were mined since the 1940s, but they were never consolidated into one land package. So you can imagine the exploration opportunity by combining 2 historic mining camps into one package. Unfortunately for Integra, they were very busy at the time defining Triangle, so they didn't have any geological bandwidth left in their team to figure out where are the best exploration targets and how do we rank these exploration targets for further discovery. So Integra did something very innovative at the time, and they digitized the entire data set of these 2 historic projects and put it all into the public domain and entered the Integra Gold Rush Challenge, where whoever could find the best exploration targets and why, they'll give them up to $1 million. So there was 2,000 entrances from all around the world for this competition back in 2015. And it really drew on like geoscientists and even Silicon Valley types. But the top 5 were flown to PDAC that year. And had to pitch their ideas in front of a group of industry experts and gurus, pretty much Shark Tank style. And the winner of this competition used early machine learning techniques like 2015 machine learning to identify patterns in the historic data and the regional data that correlated to gold mineralization, effectively creating a 3D predictive model where every cell had a value for gold prospectivity. So the gentleman that won this competition is a guy called Jean-Philippe Pimont, or we call him JP, who we brought into VRIFY at the end of 2023 to really build a tool where geologists can help understand what their data is telling them about their complex data sets, and then find a way that where they can risk rank the targets in a way that it was capital efficient for the mining company. So now we've got this algorithm, the next step is we need to do a proof of concept. So we searched around the world for a couple of suitable projects around that would be applicable for the AI algorithm. And we settled on a project in southern Manitoba, which is called Flin Flon. And the reason why we use this is because the ore body is already mined out, so we know the answer, but there was also a very large public data set available. And the objective of this test is to see if the AI predictive model could predict the sulfide lens, which you can see in red, purely based on training data for the sulfide lens in the back here. So how does the algorithm work? So the first step is we need to ingest all the geological data into the model. So when we say geological data, this could be geophysics, so your IP surveys, magnetics, geochemistry, could be structural data, so geological mapping, as well as any DEM data, so topography and elevation data. And once we ingest all the data into the model, we effectively use something called vision transformers to change the data into 2D images. So what you see here is a stack of 2D images, which is a representation of the geological data. And we call this the data stack. Next step, we need to tell the algorithm what is considered as mineralization. So in the case of Flin Flon, this is a VMS deposit. It was copper zinc. So we said anything over 0.1% copper and 0.1% zinc we'll consider as mineralized. As you know, in the exploration industry, your negative hits are just as important as your positive hits. So anytime we have a negative example of mineralization, we also consider that into the algorithm. So effectively, what the algorithm is doing is every time in the training data it has a positive example of mineralization, it's creating a pixel in the geological data set, a pixel in a search ellipse. So it's looking for relationships in all the data. And every time there's a negative example, it's also creating a pixel. So effectively, what we're trying to do is figure out, in the training data, where can we see examples of mineralization, and where we can see non-examples of mineralization in the data. And once we're satisfied with the way the training data is working, we actually apply the algorithm over the entire project. And what we have is a heat map of prospectivity, where bars in pink and white are highly prospective, and areas in blue and dark blue are not so prospective, or medium prospective. And just because there's areas in pink and white, which is where we've been drilling before, showing it was highly prospective, doesn't mean that areas that in blue are not to be overlooked. And the reason why this has been medium prospective is because there are correlations from the main data set that exist that correlate to mineralization, but there is no drilling. So maybe this is a question for your exploration team. Do you go do some of additional geophysics, or do you do some auger sampling? And because we use drill hole data to make our predictions, we can project our predictions subsurface. So this really helps answer the question for most exploration teams. You've had mineral success in your first hole, where do you go to next? Do you go along strike? Do you go down dip? So instead of playing like battleships with your exploration program, you're actually getting a more defined target, enabling faster discovery and a more capital efficient pathway to mineral resources. And in addition, when we see a clustering of predictions over here, we can actually create a prediction or a feature importance map of what's the most important driver that drives the AI algorithm for mineral discovery. So in the case of Flin Flon, the best predictor of copper and zinc over 1% is airborne gravity in the YZ gradient in the high value, followed by airborne gravity in the Z gradient in the low value, were the best predictors of mineralization. So this really helps demystify the black box of AI. It's telling you what is driving the predictive value of the model, and it really helps the exploration team understand what's happening in their deposit. So reintroducing the flin-flon ore body to the AI predictive map, we actually can see it's actually a pretty close match in terms of geometry and alignment. And then reintroducing the drill holes, you can clearly see that no drill holes pierce the sulfide lens to make the prediction. All the data we used was from the sulfide lens in the background over here. All right, so let's go to an example that's a little bit closer to home. So this is the Sunday Creek project north of Melbourne, so it's about 60 k's. It's an orogenic gold deposit, very high grade, narrow vein. And unlike flin-flon, they've actually got a significantly large data set available. So there's over 100 layers of exploration data. And typically when we look at exploration, a geologist can probably do about 4 to 5 layers of correlation. And where the machine learning and AI really comes to its fore is trying to understand correlations and data between hundreds and hundreds of data sets. In the case of Southern Cross Gold, we used a cutoff of 15 gram a tonne. It's narrow vein Victorian gold. And we applied the algorithm over the project. So we got ourselves a couple of areas of interest. First of all, Rising Sun and Apollo, which is where they're currently exploring, showing up as highly prospective, which makes sense. We've had drilling success. But what's also very interesting to our team was Christina and Apollo East, where there is very little drilling data, but the machine learning is finding correlations that match mineralization in these areas. Southern Cross Gold actually drilled a couple of holes that clipped VRIFY's AI targets here and here, holes 127, 128. And on the 26th of September this year, they actually released the results of those holes, and they actually announced that they hit gold and antimony mineralization where they intersected VRIFY's AI's target. So put this in long section. So what did it hit? Holes 127. We've got gold mineralization at 20 grams at 0.4 meters, 0.1 meters at 54.6, and we've got 1 meter at 19.4. So not too bad. And then holes 124, what did it hit? 0.5 at 62.2, 0.3 at 31 gram a tonne. So intersecting gold mineralization, gold and antimony mineralization, where it was predicted by an AI model. And another target that was very interesting for us was Christina. So it really showed up strongly in our algorithm. And what Southern Cross Gold didn't tell us, there was actually very little data post this line. And when it showed up on our AI algorithm, Southern Cross Gold was like, you do realize that's an old historic gold mine. So effectively, we're about 80 years too late. But what's interesting is what the algorithm was identifying as patterns to mineralization. So in the case of Christina, the biggest drivers of 15 gram a tonne gold was nickel in the low value and magnesium in the high value, which is a bit interesting because typically a pathfinder for gold would be arsenic, right? And what the exploration team realized that the AA algorithm was mapping the mafic dike that was hosting the gold mineralization, which was depleted in nickel and elevated in magnesium. So where are we going today? So VRIFY AI has grown to 24 clients from 12 months ago. We're covering a wide range of deposit styles, including porphyry gold, VMS, we've got pegmatite lithium, epithermal silver, and the next stage is really to have a web interface where companies can continuously upload data and use the AI algorithm to refine the exploration targets. So it is our hope that leveraging AI would accelerate the pathway to discovery in the most capital efficient means possible. Thank you.